Mike Stevens, the Navy League of the United States National President Christopher Townsend, and the 2024 recipient of the National President's Medal, Colonel Jars de Jong, Defense, Military, Naval, and Air Attaché for the Netherlands.
The Navy League of the United States National President's Award is presented to foreign dignitaries who exemplify the highest ideals of the Navy League through their significant contributions to world peace, national security, and outstanding service to their country and fellow citizens. In tribute to one who has followed such a course of leadership, the Navy League of the United States is honored to present this award to Colonel Jars de Jong, Defense, Military, Naval, and Air Attaché, Netherlands Defense Mission to the United States of America. Colonel Jars de Jong has proven himself to be not only an esteemed ally of the Navy League, but also an invaluable defender of the NATO alliance and the principles that it represents. Serving 2 tours in Afghanistan, the latter of which included his command of the Dutch police training mission in Gundas, Colonel de Jong exemplified the highest attributes of the warfighter: courage, commitment, integrity, selfless service, and resilience. He brought great credit upon himself and his nation during these tours, as well as his tours in Haiti and Ethiopia. Colonel Jars de Jong has been a true friend of the Navy League and has helped the organization to deepen its ties with our valued ally, the Netherlands. His assistance in building a collaborative partnership between the Netherlands and the United States will continue to enhance the security of both nations for generations to come. Colonel Jars de Jong's service reflects highly upon himself and is keeping with the highest traditions of naval service of both of our nations and the Navy League of the United States. Presented this 8th day of April 2024, signed Christopher Townsend, 52nd National President of the Navy League.
Please welcome Heidi Grant, Vice President of Defense, Global Growth, and Engagement for Boeing, to the stage.
So I'm obviously not Heidi Grant. Bernd Peters here, but apologies. Heidi had to actually be in Santiago, Chile for the Vidai Air Show. Good afternoon, Admiral Rossi, and to the rest of the panelists. Really looking forward to the discussion today, and thanks again for being here. But first, a special welcome to the members of our armed forces representing not only the United States, but obviously the broader NATO coalition and other key allied partners here in the room today. And also a special thanks to the Navy League for hosting critical panel discussions as we're about to have today. My name is Bernd Peters. As I said up front, I lead business development and strategy for Boeing Defense, and I've had the privilege of working with many of you here in uniform and also across industry on how we deliver capability more effectively to the warfighter across the globe. Last week we celebrated the 75th anniversary of NATO, which is a huge milestone and a testament to the enduring commitment that NATO has to broader global security and global stability. So today's panel, you'll hear Admiral Rossi facilitate it, is focused on NATO's naval cooperation for global security, but it'll also touch on lessons learned from the conflict in Ukraine, and in particular, some of the capabilities needed in the future and what we in industry can be doing to work closely with our customers around the globe, particularly NATO, to ensure they have the capabilities that they need in the future. As industry leaders, there are 3 things for me that come to mind in terms of things we must remain committed to doing. First, continuously learn with our customers, whether it's in times of peace or in times of conflict, on how we can adapt, stay agile, and also on how we can deliver capability and readiness when it's needed most. Second, and I use this word relentlessly with the teams at Boeing, but relentlessly investing in our talent and also in key technologies to push the limits of innovation with a foundation of safety and quality to ensure customers maintain the tactical edge. And lastly, being at Boeing in an industry, I always think about how we more effectively partner across the globe with other industry and how we have conversations with our military customers and government stakeholders on solving complex challenges. Challenges like how we collectively increase industrial capacity for demand we know will continue to grow in the future. So for those reasons, we at Boeing remain extremely committed to the mission of NATO. I look forward to the discussion today, and I welcome Admiral Rossi, head of NIPO, here to the floor. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks, Heidi. Sorry. So I'm Admiral Tony Rossi. I'm the Director of Navy International Programs Office, and here to convene this panel along with the International Heads of Navy to talk about enhancing NATO naval cooperation for global security. So thank all of you for joining us. They put us in the smallest room possible, so it looks full, sort of. So our panel today is made up of Rear Admiral Scoop Haslam from Sweden, Rear Admiral Zemansky from Poland, Rear Admiral Leibrechts from the Netherlands, and Mr. Jim Hirsch from the Defense Security Cooperation Agency. During today's discussion, we'll aim to explore the critical role of naval forces within NATO, the challenges and opportunities to naval collaboration, to propose strategies to strengthen NATO's maritime capabilities, and identify lessons learned that will help shape future capabilities and requirements within the NATO naval framework. Before we begin, I want to congratulate Sweden on becoming NATO's newest member, number 32. This significant, highly positive development in the realm of international security. Sweden's inclusion in NATO will enhance European security and contribute to the stability of the region. It also demonstrates Sweden's commitment to upholding our shared values of democracy, peace, and security within the Baltic Sea and the larger world at large. I think I speak for everyone in this room when I say congratulations on this momentous occasion. And how about a quick round of applause for our newest leader? So NATO plays a crucial role in ensuring global security and comprises the world's largest and strongest military alliance, including a unique commitment of collective defense. NATO relies heavily on naval capabilities to protect its member states and maintain peace and stability. Today's panel recognizes the significance of naval forces in achieving these objectives and seeks to further enhance our effectiveness through increased collaboration. One of the main objectives of this panel is to discuss challenges and opportunities for naval collaboration within NATO. Cooperation among member states is essential for maximizing the capabilities of naval forces and countering common security threats. Today's discussion will aim to foster deeper understanding of the obstacles that hinder effective collaboration, explore innovative solutions to overcome them, and identify areas where joint training, information sharing, and interoperability can be improved to enhance the overall effectiveness of our NATO forces. In addition to addressing these challenges, the panel will also focus on identifying opportunities for naval collaboration. With rapidly evolving security threats, it's crucial to adapt and leverage emerging technologies and operational concepts. The panel will provide a platform to share experiences and expertise, highlighting successful initiatives and best practices that can be replicated across the alliance. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce our first panelist, Rear Admiral Scoop Haslam from Sweden. Admiral Scoop Haslam brings a wealth of experience, study, and expertise in the field of maritime affairs and defense, with a distinguished career in the Swedish Navy, and has leadership positions at all levels, demonstrating her exceptional skills in strategic planning, operational management, and international cooperation. Please join me in welcoming Rear Admiral Scoop Haslett. All right, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me here once again. To start with before we became the NATO ally, I would also like to thank all the navies, especially US Navy, for the reassurances we got during the time from we applied until we became full-fledged members. So thank you very much for that. I would like to just start to explore a little bit about the environment we are in. And I would like to state that with Swedish Navy, we celebrated 500 years, 2022. And of course, that is a milestone in our naval history, even though maybe we can take the time a little bit more before 1522. But on that significant day, 1522, we really believe that was when we established the Navy. Back then, and even now, the importance of a sea power remains paramount. And I claim that it's very hard to convince people in general to understand that importance, actually. And we heard about the USCNO talking about sea blindness earlier today. The Baltic Sea, with its hundreds of thousands of islands, and it's very shallow, it's brackish water, that presents a highly specific and specialized operational environment for us. And I can also claim that we excel that one. Notably, the Russian Baltic Fleet, with its bases in Kaliningrad and St. Petersburg, is also very, very well adapted to this area. And Russia heavily relies on its sea lines of communication in the Baltic. They have approximately 60% of their import passing through to St. Petersburg harbor. And moreover, also neighboring states in the Baltic Sea region rely heavily on the maritime trade for import and export. And that, of course, emphasizes the strategic importance of this region. However, the combination of these factors evokes unique operational dilemmas for all the navies. The conflict in Ukraine has brought numerous security and naval concerns to the forefront. And sanctions against Russia have led to the emergence of a ghost fleet, for example, of dubious merchant ships in our waters, posing risks to the environment, the maritime safety and security, and of course including hybrid threats. And lessons learned from the war have been many, but I also claim that we have to stay very vigilant, not transferring the situation just straight away, because environment, systems and organizations are maybe a little bit different than to ours. The facts may have other deduction and conclusions if you compare to what has already been drawn. But something I like to underscore is that Russia, through their operations, they are making great experiences, and they also gain combat-proven equipment and personnel. Of course, we do that as well as Western countries, but that is a little bit more of a warning sign. And recent incidents and accidents, such as the sabotages of underwater infrastructure, the spoofing of navigational systems. We have heard about Ever Given in Suez Canal, the attacks against merchant shipping in the Red Sea, but also the tragically damage to the bridge in Baltimore, that underscore the vulnerability to our sea lines of communication and the importance of safeguarding them. And who knows if purposely made, man-made sabotages look like accidents. Safety and security must go hand in hand. And in light of Russia's hostile stance towards the West, Sweden has been compelled to adapt to a new security environment. And one result of that was our application for NATO membership, a significant step that has been preceded by decades of cooperation and exercises with NATO. We have done that since the early 1990s. And interoperability and connectivity, that have been focal points for Swedish Navy since then. And we take a great pride of our continuous 24/7 sea surveillance operation, which monitors and secures our waters by presence, tracking and identifying all ships within and beyond our territorial sea. We have approximately 4,000 ships movements registered at any given minute in the Baltic Sea and in the west coast of Sweden. And our vigilance remains very, very high. So as a new NATO ally, we aim to contribute perspectives, pragmatic tactics maybe, and active participation in collective defense efforts. Our new Blekinge class in the air-independent submarines, the Luleå class surface competence, equipped with extensive capabilities, a new state-of-the-art SIGINT ship, and our Marine Corps rapid combat boat operations. That represents our committing to enhancing NATO capabilities as well. So with a perspective on joint activities, we believe that all these assets can make a significant contribution to NATO's collective defense doctrine. Thank you.
Thank you for that, ma'am. Gave us a lot to think about there. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce our second panelist, Rear Admiral Szymanski from Poland. In addition to his remarkable naval career in Poland, Admiral Szymanski has also made significant contributions to NATO throughout his career. He actively contributed to NATO's cooperative security initiatives, promoting dialogue and cooperation with partner nations. He participated in numerous exercises and engagements with both NATO and non-NATO countries, fostering mutual understanding and building a stronger partnership. His dedication and expertise in maritime operations have greatly contributed to NATO's overall mission of collective defense and regional stability. His contributions serve as an exemplary demonstration of Poland's commitment to the alliance and its efforts to ensure a secure and prosperous Euro-Atlantic community. Let's give a warm welcome to Rear Admiral Szymanski.
Good afternoon, Admiral Rosenberg, Admirals, distinguished guests. At the beginning, I'd like to thank you for the invitation for the CR Space Conference. It's the second time for me to be here. I'm very glad to be here and share our experience and knowledge in this specific subject we touched today. And I would also like to congratulate to Admiral Eva Skok-Haslund for joining Alliance and empowering our allies in the Baltic Sea region.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
Thank you very much.
At the beginning of my consideration, I would like to underline that the war in Ukraine lasted over 2 years. We need to remember that Ukraine is fighting alone. It is not a member of any defense treaty, but many observations from the Black Sea should be taken into account and implemented both internally by distinct nations and collectively within NATO. Ukraine, after losing ships and with limited naval power, created own A2AD capabilities, providing effective deterrence to Russian naval forces. Firstly, I would like to refer to the Alliance's strategic level documents. Let me highlight changes within NATO based on developed and agreed new NATO strategic concept during Madrid summit in 2022. That is significantly different in the content and threat versus the last one, concept from Lisbon in 2010. The current main effort is to enhance readiness, responsiveness and resilience of NATO and all allies, whereas stressing a new approach with defense by deterrence. While discussing on NATO strategic concept and lessons from the Ukraine-Russian war, there is a need to stress the content of Article 3 of the Washington Treaty that underlines the requirement to build on resilience that Ukraine shows each day. In addition to clearly shown resistance, the support from democratic countries allows the Ukraine to continue its defense and restore rules-based international order. It also demonstrates the importance of mutual cooperation. Secondly, from my perspective, lessons coming from Ukraine-Russian conflict and implication on alliance development might be considered with the following aspects: operational tactics, technological challenges together with cyber and electronic warfare, with wide usage support of autonomous systems with potential future support for artificial intelligence. Moreover, in order to enhance our resilience, it is required to analyze and update strategy, doctrines, and our capabilities. In my point of view, we should focus on enhancement of the core of maritime activities, such as maritime situation awareness, usage of autonomous systems, adapt our naval forces to new threats, especially all kinds of drones. The MSA should be based on information from many sources, relevant analysis of data, and a rapid decision-making process. To that end, I see the opportunity in the outcome of NATO work on digital ocean, while on our national level we already commenced the project on digital Baltic. Bearing in mind the current development of autonomous solutions and the potential role in support to warfare in maritime domain, one of the main goals is to reinforce the alliance's maritime posture. Usage of such systems by Ukraine Navy against Russian combat ships are the best examples of their efficiency and potential role in the conflict. Autonomous systems costs versus tactical operational effects, with human beings removed from the danger zone, will provide future solutions within joint intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, anti-submarine warfare, mine countermeasures, and other warfare or combat activities. I do believe that in some circumstances, implementation of autonomous systems might be a game changer in multi-domain operations. At the same time, we should be aware that autonomous systems might support Navy tasks, but will definitely not do it for us. In addition, such systems are sufficient as long as we know exactly where to put them within the overall maritime combat battle space. Massive employing of autonomous systems is also one of the considerations in kinetic actions, as well as the solution in providing information and building overall MSA. This may serve as a baseline for our response in the event that the circumstances warrant it. Another dimension for autonomous systems is employing them as the persistent effort in monitoring critical maritime infrastructure, as Admiral Stokasnik mentioned, while releasing standard platform ships for the main purpose is all kinds of warfare. Additionally, the reinforced presence in crucial maritime areas is a pivotal task for the naval forces in order to deter potential threat. This presence, in our case, ought to be conducted simultaneously with partnership and collaboration in security initiatives spanning from the seabed to the space. While talking about the cooperation, it's also necessary to change the level and relations between civil and military cooperation and company and users. In order to meet naval combat and security expectations, the procurement cycle and adjustment of new systems must be reduced, while taking into account practical requirements. Moving to the Baltic Sea region, NATO had been enlarged by 2 new members, Finland and Sweden. Currently, the Baltic Sea is surrounded by NATO member nations, which gives an avenue to strengthen the alliance maritime posture, while at the same time seriously limiting Russian military activities and maritime transportation, if the situation requires. To conclude, our attention is directed towards the 3 mentioned aspects, namely MSA, the utilization of autonomous systems, and the safeguarding of ships against novel threats. All stress above fit into 3 core NATO tasks: deterrence and defense, crisis prevention and management, and cooperative security. Only with these principles we will ensure our collective defense against all threats from all directions. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Zimhansky. Our third panelist has held key positions in multinational missions, has actively contributed to strengthening cooperation between Netherlands and other nations. His dedication to foster international partnerships and his extensive experience in joint operations make him a highly respected and influential member of the field of maritime security. His commitment to promoting collaboration and his deep understanding of global Navy operations make him a valuable asset to our panel. Please help me in welcoming Rear Admiral Lee Briggs from the Royal Netherlands Navy.
Well, thank you very much. Very pleased to be here. I don't think it is needless to say that the war in Ukraine was quite a shock to Europe. And at strategic level, I think it means two things for the Netherlands and Europe. First of all, I think we need a stronger Europe. Not instead of NATO, but as a part of NATO. And to achieve that, we need to invest and to increase our operational readiness. As a result of these developments, the defense budgets for the Dutch defense forces have increased significantly by about 25%. And for me, as Deputy Commander of the Dutch Navy, that means a lot. That means that we are transitioning everything. All ships we have in our fleet will be replaced, and there's projects for every type of ship. We will be replacing our mine hunting vessels, we will be replacing the submarines, we will be ordering new air defense frigates, new LPDs, amphibious transport ships, and at the same time we will be restructuring marine forces in a new force design so they are better able to cope with the threat as we saw evolving in Ukraine. All these things we do in support of NATO. And luckily in the Netherlands we have a defense industry, and I would like to highlight here the importance of national industry to maintain, to operate, to maintain and also to modify the ships and the equipment we have. You need to have the intellectual property and the rights to maintain and to modify, to make sure that the equipment can be operated for the next 10, 20, 30 years, regardless of the coalition where you will be operating with. And at the same time, it offers a challenge, because if we have Dutch national industry, which is very good and offers the best value for money in my respect, but that's European scale that can lead to fragmentation and duplication of efforts, for example, for development and design of new ships. So how do you combine that? And I think we're actively trying to achieve that we can combine these two elements. And you don't need to have exactly the same ships to be interoperable. I think if you achieve commonality, you can achieve a lot. And this is where also NATO comes in from a different kind of perspective. But NATO, one of the most important parts of NATO, and which is most often neglected or underestimated, I think, is about standardization. So NATO has standards for material. So you don't need to have the exact radio to talk to each other. But there's also standards for strategy, for joint procedures, for tactics. And I think that is highly important, because that's the basis for trust, for situational understanding, for understanding how your partners work and how they handle things. And I think that is of vital importance. These are the lines where we develop our Navy, and that's in support of NATO and the NATO territory. But like the US, there's more than that. We share the same interests, the same values, and it extends beyond the borders of NATO territory. And that's why we, for example, send an air defense frigate on a regular basis to the Indo-Pacific. Because the Netherlands is a trading nation, and for our welfare, for our economic welfare, we are dependent on commercial shipping from the Indo-Pacific area towards Europe, and especially the port of Rotterdam. We sent one of our frigates to the Indo-Pacific, but then things broke out in the Red Sea, so the frigate is now operating in the Red Sea for Operation Prosperity and Guardian, operating there. and after that, she will proceed eastward and finish the tour around the world. And at the same time, we've decided to also send another ship, which is our joint SIGIC support ship, but she will be operating for the European mission, which is called Aspides. And I think the good thing, what we learned from that, is that you can both operate under a US-led mission like OPG and operate with a European-led mission like Aspides, and they're in the same area supporting each other. So one operation does not exclude the other one. And this is not the only place in the world where we work closely together, also with US institutions. We still have our presence in the Dutch Caribbean islands, and we are responsible for defending the Caribbean islands. And there's drug trafficking, there's human trafficking. We work very closely together, for example, with the US Coast Guard to counter these criminality, these threats that persist over there. So I think there's a wide area where we can operate, and I think NATO, with its 75 years of existence, has proven to be a vital vehicle to achieve interoperability.
Thank you, Admiral. Now let's turn our attention to Mr. Jim Hirsch, highly respected figure in the realm of international defense and security cooperation. As the director of the Defense Security Cooperation Agency, Jim plays a pivotal role in advancing U.S. foreign military sales and security assistance programs. Under Mr. Hirsch's leadership, DSCA has supported NATO's efforts to build capacity and readiness among member nations. This includes providing defense articles and services and training to enhance the capabilities of NATO and allies to enable them to contribute effectively to collective defense. Prior to coming to DSCA, Jim served in the U.S. mission in NATO for nearly 9 years, so he has a lot of history in this realm. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me in joining in. Welcome our last panel member, Jim.
Well, thank you, Tony, and thank you to my colleagues on the stage. You may have noticed that one of these things up here is not like the others. Not in a dark blue naval uniform. No big band of gold around my cuffs. So let me talk just a little bit about who I am and what I bring to this panel. So I'm the director of the Defense Security Cooperation Agency, as Admiral Rossi said. We are the organization that leads the security cooperation enterprise of the United States government and provides foreign military sales, but also grant assistance to our allies and partners around the world. I personally, as Tony said, have a long history in Europe. Before I went to NATO, I had been the Nordic desk officer for a period of about 8 years, and I can't tell you how much it means to me to have Sweden in NATO. Since I want to give a little context on what we've learned from Ukraine and what we've done for Ukraine. Since 2021, we have done 55 presidential drawdowns out of Department of Defense stocks. That totals about $24 billion worth of equipment. Yes, we're all waiting every day for our Congress to take action on a supplemental package so we can continue that assistance. You should add to that about $18 billion of Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative funding that we have provided in 2023, where we are buying articles and services that will be delivered to Ukraine over time from new production. We've had a huge increase in demand from our European allies and partners over the last few years since the renewed invasion by the Russians in Ukraine. All of the partners, or all the allies represented up here on the stage with me, have become huge customers. Poland in particular has really used a lot of resources to increase their defense budget. Since 2021, we globally have done about $80.6 billion of business through our foreign military sales system. That includes grant assistance that we've provided. That is a record That was the FY23 number. In FY22 of the $51.92 billion we did, $20 billion of that came from European countries. And in FY23, $24 billion went to European countries. This is a huge increase, and it's representative of the increased investment that our allies in Europe are making every day, which is a story that may not be as widely reported as it needs to be. In addition to that, in the naval area in Europe, we've done a couple of what we call Title X or DoD-funded programs, particularly on Baltic Security Initiative, which is maritime domain awareness in the Baltic Sea region with our Baltic partner allies. And we've also sold several P-8 maritime surveillance aircraft to allies and partners within the European AOR, dramatically increasing their ability to both do anti-submarine operations and maritime domain awareness. Of course, there's a connection to the Pacific here as well in our increased numbers, as our Asian allies and partners have also dramatically increased. We had a panel here on AUKUS just a little while ago. Our Australian allies are doing dramatically increased buys as well. But I should point out that our European allies are also becoming increasingly involved in the Indo-Pacific region, as our Dutch colleague just mentioned. We're trying to do better as we go through this increased demand for foreign military sales. Some of you may have heard about our foreign military sales Tiger team that we did a couple of years ago. We've shifted that into what we call a continuous process improvement board, a place where we're following and watching closely the implementation of the recommendations that came out of the foreign military sales Tiger team. We're also looking for additional ways in which we can improve in our processes, and we're doing that across the security cooperation enterprise, including with the Navy International Program Office and their Air Force and Army counterparts. We are well on the way to establishing a new way in which we train, man, and equip for security cooperation within the U.S. government, something called the Defense Security Cooperation Service, where the SCA will take over and ensure that we have appropriately trained our security cooperation officers around the world. And we're also doing a lot to increase the awareness and training of our own security cooperation workforce. So in addition to that, we're working within NATO to increase our ability to handle multilateral or multinational procurements from the NATO Supply and Procurement Agency and elsewhere within the NATO/EU context, so that we can better support our allies and partners in Europe. One of the principal lessons we have learned in the Ukraine crisis and looking at ourselves as we've gone through this is an issue that I think is really central to this whole Navy League conference, which is the health of our defense industrial base. And I think we've discovered both domestically that we need to pay more attention to that. We have a new National Defense Industrial Base Strategy that has been published by our Acquisition and Sustainment Office. But I think it's also true that we're seeing in Europe an increased focus on the strength of the industrial base. And we're looking for ways in which we can cooperate across those industrial bases. We've recently undertaken some cooperation with Poland in joint co-production of some defense systems, and we're looking at how we can do that with other allies and partners as well. So we're here to do what we can to help. We're from the federal government, and we're here to help. Is sort of the bottom line, I would say, on this. But it's a great privilege to be here with our allies, talking about this important issue of how we improve cooperation among NATO allies in ways that can help us prepare for the challenges that we face now. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. One of the things that you mentioned that I thought maybe we can talk about in the question and answer is, with this generational investment all of the alliance partners are making, how do we make sure we balance the sovereign and the alliance requirements to make sure we don't double up in some areas and leave gaps in others? So. All right, so that ends the prepared remarks. I've got a couple of questions to get us started, but you can go ahead and start putting your thinking caps on. In 2 or 3 minutes, we'll open up, hopefully, if we have time left, for a couple of audience questions as well. Admiral Scoop Haslam, if I can start with you, what keeps you awake at night? What do you think is the most pressing security threats to Sweden and to NATO at large?
Right now, I actually sleep very, very well, since we are so much among friends today. Actually, I think it's what we have seen from the last couple of years in Ukraine, and it comes even closer to us. We see for example, the Nord Stream infrastructure, underwater, the sabotage there. That we have also seen. I read actually today, I haven't actually seen if that is true, but maybe there has been an attack in Kaliningrad as well yesterday on a Russian ship. So it moves a little bit closer to us all the time, and we have a high readiness already because we have that short operational depth. We need to have that, and we need to have the whole toolbox, because we have been more or less alone. In the future, of course, we can maybe see what kind of qualities we need to duplicate, or what we do not need to duplicate. But I think the gray zone, the hybrid threats, the attacks that maybe not look like they are an attack, it looks like accidents. That is actually what's keeping me awake. We have the inlets to the Baltic Sea. There are two great bridges between Denmark and Sweden, but also between the Danish islands. Those were attacked, like the Baltimore accident. That's kind of things to all the time are figuring out what will we do if that happens. And have that toolbox ready.
Thank you. Between the Suez Canal a few years ago, the Red Sea now, and the Baltimore Bridge collapse shows you how important infrastructure and single points of failure that block up a major port, how impactful that can be. So thank you. Admiral Liebriggs, for the war in the Ukraine teaches us the difficult to predict what the next war is going to look like or need. The advent of UUVs for seabed warfare, USVs as aerial denial weapons, and UAVs, and combinations of UAVs and ballistic and cruise missiles to saturate air defenses. At the same time, soldiers are fighting, trench warfare, with this happening overhead. With this unpredictability and short cycle of innovation, how do you ensure the industry knows what you need and is prepared to deliver for you?
Yeah, I elaborated on the strategic effects from the war in Ukraine, and this is more the tactical effect I want to put focus on for now. To be honest, when the war in Ukraine started, and obviously I was aware that UAVs exist, but I was never aware that the impact of unmanned vehicles, either aerial or on the surface, would have a huge effect on, for example, sea denial. I think they are very, very powerful weapon systems. I did not see that coming. So you have to prepare for a threat you didn't see coming a couple of times before. So that emphasizes the need for short-cycled innovation. You need to be quicker in adopting new technologies, and I'm surprised by how the Ukrainians can connect all these different systems in one working system and operating. That's something we cannot do anymore. We've learned not to do so in a couple of last decades of reductions. I think we need to improve on that respect. But short-cycled innovation does have its limitations. You cannot go just to the market and hope that the equipment you need is just there. Chances are they're still not there yet. So you need to be one step ahead. And for that, I think you need a tight cooperation between armed forces, knowledge institutes or academia, and defense industry. So we are investing heavily in knowledge institutes and in science. And the trick is, and what you want to achieve is that this knowledge, this experience that is being produced in these weapon systems or systems, we can use in the battlefield at a much higher pace than we are used to at the moment. And it's not only a challenge for industry, but it's also a challenge for my own organization. Again, after decades of reductions, it's very hard to speed up. And it's not just a mindset, but also something that is in rules and regulations. And for example, I was surprised that if we buy equipment for Ukraine and ship it to Ukraine, we are not obliged to adhere to European rules, and we can buy it almost instantaneously. But if we invest in our own equipment, there's European rules, and it takes at least half a year, possibly a lot longer than that. So I think that's, for me, that's a key takeaway. The cooperation between armed forces, academia, knowledge institutes, and defense industry.
Thanks, Jim. And your comments on policy bring to mind, I often wonder if we're acting like there's a war coming. And when we'll shift to that focus where policy is no longer the impediment to moving faster, but actually technology to move.
Exactly.
Jim, if I could ask, you mentioned the FMS Tiger team that concluded last year and the Continuous Process Improvement Board. Any particular progress on the actions out of that, and any particular implications for NATO or other alliances?
So we're coming up at the 1-year mark from when the Secretary signed out the recommendations of the FMS Tiger team. There were 85 recommendations. We bundled them into about 5 or 6 categories. Going through all that would take longer than we have left on the panel. But what I would say is that the 2 things I highlighted in my remarks are really perhaps the biggest thing: how you man, train, and equip for the security cooperation mission in terms of building the Defense Security Cooperation Service, which should meet initial operating capability this October and final operating capability a year later. And also our internal education and certification process for our workforce, which will go across the Department of Defense and ensure that those who are involved in the security cooperation arena have basic understanding of the systems we undertake, both on the Title 22 State Department FMS side and the Title 10 DoD funded side. We have made progress in some technology security and foreign disclosure areas, in particular making sure that we have more transparency and perhaps more rigor in the ComSec release area, although we're still watching that to make sure that it has actual effect on cases. And as a result of the National Defense Authorization Act last year, we're also responding, not my organization, but other parts of the Department of Defense are responding to a requirement to do a more complete report on technology security and foreign disclosure, which will be seen before the end of the fiscal year if we stay on track. Beyond that, we also have established something we call the SCEF, which is a horrible acronym, which essentially means Security Cooperation Security Cooperation Enforcement Forum, which allows each of our combatant commanders to bring 5 cases every 2 months to the presence of all the implementing agencies sitting together, and to highlight a couple of cases where they believe there are impediments that we can break through. We've now done several of those SCEF meetings. We haven't solved every case, but we have moved forward and accelerated a good portion of those cases. So those are areas where we're working. There's a huge amount of additional work to be done in areas like trying to make more strategic use of our SSTAF fund for advanced purchases, looking at acquisition processes and trying to make sure that we can take foreign demand and tie it to contracting deadlines. And then there are several areas where we need to work together with our industrial base to try to improve capacity and decrease production timelines. But all that is under work. This is a continuing effort. It's not ever going to be done. There will always be more continuous process improvement to be done.
Thanks, Jim. I don't see anybody lined up. Anybody have questions in the audience?
Over here. Hi, Patrick Tucker, Defense One. For the Swedish Naval, I'm going to butcher your name. It's Slagkaslan. Sorry if I butcher your name. On Kaliningrad, there's been a lot of reports of increased GPS spoofing activity. I wonder if you can comment on whether or not that's having any sort of military effect that you can speak to, and given its sort of ambiguous nature, what can Sweden and allied navies do to stop it or thwart it without escalating tensions with Russia? Thank you.
I'm not sure I got everything, but...
I think the question was, have you seen increased GPS spoofing, and is it causing a military impact?
Okay, yeah, sorry. Yes, we have. There have been lots of reports from the spoofing. It affects the aircraft mostly, but of course also the merchant shipping. For the military purposes, we actually are not affected because we are not that dependent on the GPS. But of course that makes an unsecure area. And when the uncertainty occurs in an area, the insurance rates increases. And if that is said, that it is an unsecure area, that of course leads to what we now see from the ghost shipping, for example. So that is actually a snowball that is becoming bigger and bigger, and we need to secure the area. And I think the security is only made by presence. Right now it's presence. The DDA, the NATO DDA, I think it's a perfect solution for this. So presence and building stability in the area, being close to the merchant shipping so they can feel secure as well. So presence, and that's also, I can claim, we need bigger naval forces, not only in Sweden, but of course in every country in the region.
Thank you. I think the thing we often find with a new, emerging challenge like that is you don't really know how widely proliferated the need for it is until it's gone. 10, 15 years ago, everyone wasn't walking around navigating by their phone using GPS. Every car didn't have it. Every airplane didn't have it. 15 years ago, the U.S. National Airspace System was planning on getting rid of all the terrestrial nav aids and going GPS only. We'd be in a terrible position now if we had actually followed through with that, but we didn't. So knowing where the impact of that's going to be. Looks like we have another question over there as well.
I'm Jonathan with Quantum Interface. We're a small business, deep tech, high-tech company. In Ukraine, the pace of technology that's happened has forced adoption of technologies very quickly. How have you changed to be able to adopt technologies that are coming from companies like ours that move very quickly, even operationally getting tested? How are each of you dealing with that now, given the way that technology has shaped what we know to be true with Ukraine?
The region want to start from your side?
First of all, we also do training of Ukrainian forces, and I think there's a huge benefit from also training Ukrainians, because we learn as well from how Ukrainian forces operate. For example, there's equipment where we have attached safety features on, which are lethal when you're in the battlefield. So the first thing they do when you deliver a vehicle with all these safety features is they remove all those features, because they achieve quite the opposite effect. That's one part. The other thing I said, we need short-sighted innovation. I think we're still lacking on that part. If you want to speed up the procurement rules, it requires new rules, new regulations, new laws. They are not there in place. Although we've achieved some successes with that respect, the Dutch Parliament now accepts that we do more without them informing. So the levels, the threshold for coming to Parliament used to be 25 million euros and it's now 100 million euros, which gives us much more room for short-cycled innovations. And I think it's always driven by the effect we need to achieve. So if you're in the battlefield, what problem are you going to solve? And that drives the operational requirement. And with that in mind, then you can see what's available in the market, what is not. And if it's not, will we have to develop it, or will we go on another route and see if we can avoid the problem in a different way? But there's not so much, to be honest, that we changed in terms of equipment, apart from lessons from Ukraine. The most significant change we're doing now is what I mentioned is with our Marines. They've changed the way they are operating within the force design, as we call it. And instead of having lots of people operating closely together, they're now spread across the area, smaller units, requiring more connectivity, requiring the weapons distributed in a different position. And that's what we are training and what we're training with, experimenting with, and that will drive our future requirements for equipment.
And was the main speaking?
Yeah, I've got very similar kind of experience and as earlier. So we are looking for technology which is available on the market, both in the government-owned companies and the private entities as well. So it's a mixture of effort. We are looking for something to implement relatively fast or reduce the time to provide the new capabilities to the operational units. Everyday analysis on the war in the Black Sea, what's going on there, and which capability acts properly or which is not good, what should be changed. We also have a direct contact and training with the Ukrainian soldiers. We train them on our soil, and we support Ukraine in many new technologies as well. So I think it's we've done it many years ago before the invasion started. So this process is going to last for 10 years, we can say. So all these analyses and experiences we try to put in the new approach, new standards as well. That this is totally different issue, providing support with a new technology and new systems to Ukraine, or just provide this new technology, innovation, disruptive technology to our forces. Because our regulations just hamper our effort many times. It means that it lasts longer. So sometimes it's, as we've heard during one panel discussion, that be effective, we should just involve all entities, nation, as a diamond mentioned, not only the military, as we are. It should be just proper funding, it should be economics, logistics, of course, because many times if we plan an operation, we should start with logistics. Is it feasible, or we just put some game on the table without reality? So it's very, very complex. with many ups and downs, but I think that we succeed in many areas. So we take into account all you mentioned, that we should do something in a good direction, proper direction. So it's not easy, but a lot of effort, different engineers, technicians, workers, R&D organizations involved. Relatively speed up the process, maybe not as we expected that, but we observed such movement.
Thanks, sir. So we're at time, and knowing that we're between you and the international reception, about one final round of applause for our panel members.
They have 10 companies that they're showcasing. We're the last one on Wednesday, but I'll have examples on Blackhawk, Army stuff. You can see it's in a headset on a PC or a mobile device. So it allows you to take it with you, whatever you have. But it's really good, especially for like sneakers and sport industry systems. Things where we've got a big maintenance manual, a lot of English. Forget that. You put it on and you learn how to do it in 10 minutes you start using it. Very fast.
They had a beer. He was drinking a beer in here. That's a good idea.
Okay, very nice meeting you. Nice to meet you.
anyways, but so my goal is to expand the number of businesses that are participating.
What is the mandate that's doing?
Oh,